Hey everybody, it's Daniel, aka FloppyPENGuinn, and as you can see, I'm coming to you today for episode 3 from my home. Currently, I am away from the university as they've shut down due to the coronavirus, as everything else has, as well as the bowling alleys. So I'm going to try something a little different for this episode. So, without further ado, let's get into episode 3, asymmetric versus symmetric bowling balls. So, to start out, I have a symmetric ball right here. This is a Brunswick Phantom, and as you can see, I've got my standard pin down layout. I typically stick with 2 layouts, one pin up and one pin down, as you'll see throughout the rest of this video. One key way to know if it is a symmetric or an asymmetric bowling ball is to look at the ball itself. And as you can see, every ball is going to have a CG marking. So this circle here is the pin, and this little crown looking emblem for Brunswick balls, because it's a Brunswick Phantom, is for the CG, the center of gravity. To show you the difference between a symmetric and an asymmetric bowling ball, as you can see, this is a track tactics, so it's an asymmetric bowling ball. So as you can see, the orange circle here is the pin, and then we have a CG marking right here, which is the little track emblem, and then there's one more marking that symmetric balls don't have, and it's this white dot here with a little power emblem around it from track. So that is the mass bias, or the intermediate differential, if you will. What I've got here is 2 symmetric and 2 asymmetric bowling balls that are in my arsenal for 2020 Junior Gold. Let's get started with symmetric. So as I stated earlier, I've got the Brunswick Phantom here as my solid symmetric bowling ball in my arsenal. This is a very benchmark ball for me. It would be definitely above urethane and above my shiny symmetric. And my shiny symmetric is the Hammer Onyx Vibe, and it has that exact same layout as my Brunswick Phantom, with one little addition, a little side note. It's got a weight hole in it, if you can see that right there. This ball is the only ball in my arsenal that has a weight hole, and of course that'll have to be plugged by August 1st of this year. So this is a step down from the Phantom. This is something that I would throw end of the day on the medium shot, end of the day on the long shot, depending on how it plays. If it plays like it did last year in Michigan, then I wouldn't typically throw this shiny ball, my Onyx Vibe, because last year everything played with a lot of surface need, and so we needed a lot of surface. Shiny stuff wouldn't pick up early enough, so it was very difficult to control something shiny. You needed something to read early, something that didn't go so far down lane. The cleaner stuff through the fronts was kind of difficult to use in Michigan last year. That's why I didn't use a lot of pin down bowling balls last year. Although my pin down Triton Elite was my symmetric solid last year in my arsenal, and it did very well on the long pattern. Just because I was able to put surface on it. I had 500 grit on it, and get it to rev up and still be a little cleaner than my other stuff through the fronts. So it was very difficult for me to throw like my track tactics last year on that pattern. I have my track tactics, like I said, right here, and it's got the pin up layout on it, my standard pin up layout, 5 inches from my PAP. My pin downs are 4.5 from my PAP. And so what I use this for is usually to start out with whenever there's more volume, or whenever I want to get a feel for a pattern. This is something that I want to throw because it's very rolly, it's very predictable, and it's very smooth. And that's what I love about the Tactics series. So, to kind of explain why that is, so the Track Tactics is a very trusted ball that's very smooth. It's that middle tier of hook potential from the track line, and middle tier as far as, you know, the abilities of the ball go. It has a medium-sized asymmetric core in it, the Starship core, I believe. And the cover stock on it is very rolly as well. So it's got a decently sized core, medium-sized core in it that is pretty rolly, asymmetric as well. And the cover stock is pretty rolly as well. So what I mean by rolly is it wants to enter the roll phase and blend out the pattern. It wants to be smooth, start the roll early, kind of just transition into the roll phase very smoothly down lane, and roll a little sooner than most other balls. My pin down stuff, what that pin down does, it increases the last angle of the dual angle layout system, And whenever you do that, it elongates the hook phase. So it makes the hook phase longer. So something like a pin-up ball, like this Track Tactics, the hook phase is shorter, so it wants to rev up a little more, a little quicker, if you will, from the three phases of ball motion: the skid, the hook, and the roll. And so once it leaves the hook phase and it enters the roll phase, it wants to do that faster with a pin-up ball than it does with a pin down. It does that slower with a pin down ball. The Track Tactics Hybrid. Now, you might be wondering, whenever you look at the layout, you might be wondering where that big yellow dot is in regards to the pin. And it's in the ring finger. So what that does for me, it's very in between. I believe the last angle on this ball is 45 or 50. I believe 45. And what that does, it doesn't elongate the hook phase a lot, but it does a decent amount, so that this isn't something that I would typically throw on fresh. I usually keep it at 2000 grit as well. I don't like to polish it very often, just because then it goes a little too long for me. And I like stuff that's smoother, kind of reads the lane, as you can tell with my other stuff. So what's really good about this Track Tactics Hybrid is it's a great step down from the Track Tactics, and then below that I would put the Phantom, and then below that I would put the Onyx Vibe. Whenever I start on a pattern, let's just say the medium pattern for example, there's always a really difficult medium pattern at Junior Gold during qualifying. So that medium pattern, usually what I'll do is I'll start out with something like the Track Tactics, maybe 1000 grit on it, depending on how early that I needed to start reading the lane. And so once I start out with that ball, if I see that it's a little too much overall motion, then I'll typically try the Tactics Hybrid, and kind of see if it blends it out a little bit. You know, if the lanes are not enough volume, then I'll go to the Tactics Hybrid. Or if I need something that gets down the lane rather than reading early, I'll go to something symmetric. Like the Phantom, for example, would be a great idea for that once I need something that's cleaner through the fronts, and still wants to grab the lane after that. Then the Brunswick Phantom is a great option for that. And then continuing on to the Onyx Vibe, once it really starts to break down, if I see a big hook spot, which is very common in college, as I said in the last episode, then I'll throw that Onyx Vibe into the friction and try and get it to respond, because the Onyx Vibe is a very responsive to friction ball, which means that it wants to rev up as soon as it hits the friction. And it's very good for things like that whenever the pattern really breaks down. So, other than that, guys, I hope that this has been a great lesson for you guys, continuing on to Junior Gold. And I'll see you guys next week for episode 4. I can't wait. Be sure to subscribe below, leave a comment if you have anything to say, and leave a like too, please. Alright, peace out, guys.